Hello everyone, Ceri the Craft here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here with a kind of a continuation video. It's at least continuing on a theme. Okay, the month is August and I'm part of a group, Facebook group called Makers Mixed Media Art and Artist Group. Myself and Paulla run a colour combo thing each month on that group, and this month's combo was neutrals. I believe the colours were ivory and cream, and you can always add white, you can always add black, and you can add a metallic. I've already done that video. It's already launched. It launches on the 2nd of every month. I'll put a link to that video in that description box below. Now, Paulla and I wanted to do something as a bit of a continuation of this theme, and also as something between the two of us. So what we've done is, as you've seen, we created pages for a journal, and then we've mailed those pages to each other. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make a journal out of those. So I need a cover for that journal. So I'm going to be inspired by the same colour scheme, using the same colours that are in the combo, although I'm going to give myself the right to add any other colour I feel should I need to, because this is not part of the colour combo, but I'd like to keep it within the theme. So I've got two 12 by 12s here, and they're 250 GSM each, and I'm going to use those to create my cover. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the 12 by 12s here. Then, so this video is going to be in sections, and then once these are made and dried, I'm then going to leave them dry completely, and then I'm going to show you how I take the two pieces and make them into a cover, and then hopefully stitch the inside in as well, basically completing the journal. So I think let's just take it from here. So it's a bit of a tricky combo because I like colour, and this is just neutrals, neutrals, neutrals. So I'm going to make it as I go along, as we say. Right, so my metallics, I use gold, and I'm going to use copper, iridescent copper, just to get some interest in here. There's going to be black in here, so I know I've got the contrast. I don't particularly want a white journal cover, so it's going to have quite a bit on it. As I said, I may well add a bit of colour in the end. So I'm just going to come in. This is my 12 by 12 gel plate. I'll take that off there. I'm just going to come in, and before I start, I'm just going to put some copper into the background of both of these white pages, just so I've got a base that isn't white, which you may think, that's a bit odd. He's got white as one of the colours. There's a difference between having the colour of the background shown as white and having just the bare background shown. So I think I'd rather just do my pickup technique, my kissing technique, and get something on here so that I've just got something on the go. And I will obviously show you at the end and as we go along, as I see fit, as long as I've got the time to do it. So I think I'm going to use both of the metallics to create a background, and then I'm going to put pieces through those backgrounds. So right, so this is where we're at the moment, 1 and 2. I'm now going to come in with some of the gold, which is the other metallic. And I know both of these metallics can run a little bit on the transparent side. So I know that the vibrancy of the gold, of the background paper will still show through. So I'm not going to be dulling this out. So again, a bit of that kissing technique that I like to use. Just picking up patches. There you go, get some in the middle there. And then flip that over onto there. So I'm moving quite quickly because metallics here in my home do tend to dry really, really quickly. So now I don't really have much in the way of tissue paper around me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a previous print that didn't quite make the grade, and I'm going to use that to clean up with. And this is the one. You've probably seen this in a previous video. It was definitely done in a previous video. Let's take these out of the way. We'll have a look at them in a minute, guys. I just need to work while the paint's still wet. Right, let's get that off the brayer onto there and put this down here. Give it a bit of press down. This tool here is called a baron. It's basically helps smooth out whatever you're printing on. I think they were originally created for the ink printing industry. I use mine all the time. It's made by a gentleman called Anthony, who runs Cody Woodcrafts on Etsy, and that's where I purchased it from. So, right, let's look at the ones we've got so far. So, we've got a good foundation for stuff to go on now. I'm also making 2 of them because the way I like to work is I like to stick them back to back to reinforce them a little more, to make an inside and an outside cover at the same time. There will be a strip cut off because I normally make my covers 9 inches by 12 inches and then they're folded, which then gives me a 9 by 6 journal cover. There'll be a strip. Those may become pockets, I'm not sure. They may actually become ATCs, they may actually become postcards. I don't know what they're going to become, to be honest. Right, let's just put a bit of something on there, just to tickle it up a bit. Right, I think I want to come in now and I want to add some of the cream colour. So I'm using this colour, which is called Matte Pastel Yellow, and I'm only using this because I don't have cream. And this is as close as I've got, so I'm not going to nip out and buy a cream coloured paint to do the next bit, when actually I've already got this colour, which is almost exactly the same as the colour cream anyway. Now again, I'm coming in, I'm doing that kissing technique with this. I'm just building stuff up in the background, putting interest on the page at this point, starting it all off. I will be using some of my designs. I will be using some of Paulla's designs because Paulla and I both designed for PM Artist Studio. Paulla lives in the Netherlands. I live here in the UK, and PM Artist Studio is in America. So quite an international affair, I feel. Right, this bit of white down there is going to really bug me. So let's see if I can just pick that up and get that covered up. There you go, and that little bit in there is not doing me any favours either. Right. So let's put this to one side. As you can see, I'm not really cleaning my plate in between, and that actually for once is intentional, because all of the colours going on here are going to be seen throughout, so I don't mind if they mix and mingle a bit. Right, so I've got my cream. I now need to think about ivory. Ivory is more of a flat colour. This is Old Ivory by Stamperia. So as you can see, one is warm and one is flat or cold, or how do you say it? Definitely opaque, definitely matte. Let's just leave it at that. Now I do want to put something into the background that is now less of just pickups. It's more of an intentional print, and I want to have a look around and see what I've got that I want to put into there. Okay, I've got this. It's a wooden stamp, a rubber stamp on a wooden block. I've got the maker somewhere. It's made by Docraft or Docraft. It's called Whispers, and they're these squares. I've got quite a few sets of these with different combinations. Like, there's another one that I use as well. Actually, I wonder whether that... Let's use this one instead of this one, actually. I like them because I don't use them for stamping. I use them for actually just printing with, and I really like what they do. They just give me a something. So I think we're going to put the ivory on with that. I'm also going to stamp it on in that I'm going to use my 5x7 as my ink pad, should we call it. Now, we know that this is a pale background. I don't expect to get perfect anything from it. I don't want a perfect impression. I just want something, but I want to put them in on here. I want to try and keep to verticals and horizontals. So I'm going to turn my pages slightly. Would you stop making that noise, please? Now also, because I'm going to have to cut this eventually down to 12 by 9 to start with, I don't know what's going to be on the final piece, so I am going to come in and I'm going to put pieces in more than 3 places. Not that it has to be in 3 places, but I feel if I do that, then it gives me options. I'm hoping I'm in screen because I'm having to move this around at some really weird angles. Put that little one in the corner. Right, that's the first one. Do I want something in the middle? There's going to be stuff in the middle. Let's put that by. And they use the same technique with this one. Now, I do find neutrals hard to do. And the reason is because I really like using colour. So I often find that if you're not using colour, you're doing neutrals, I would then reach for textures instead. So very often where I can't have colour, I will add texture. Let's put that one in there. So it's something to consider. So if you don't have colour in a project you're using, really do consider the option of texture. Now this stamp is giving me a bit of texture which I'm not sure you're going to see. Let's see if I can pick this and get closer. I'm not sure whether you can really see it, but it gives the illusion of texture, should we call it. Right, so we've got those on there. I'm just going to take a damp cloth. I like to keep the rubber stamps clean, purely because then I don't have a build-up of paint on them. As I said, I don't use these for anything other than this technique. So let's use that to pick up some pieces on our Let's Use It Up sheet. And goodness knows what this will look like eventually. It's probably going to end up with so much paint on it, it's going to be heavy. So there you go, just another bit on there. So just a bit of a clean up of that while I have a bit of a think. Right, I do have what's called ruin blocks, which is one of Paulla's designs. Now, I believe this comes in 3 different sizes. I bought the smaller one with the intention of using it for journals. So that's basically that. I'm going to use that on this, but I think I want to put another layer of something before I get to this point, because I've got a feeling this might be one of the last things I add. I'm unsure at the moment, a little bit hesitant because, as always, I'm doing this by the seat of my pants. So we've used the ivory, we've used metallic, we use cream. I don't need to use white just yet, or if at all, because the rules for the colour combo or guidelines are basically these two, and the metallics are optional. So I may not use white at all. So we've got some lovely stuff going on here. I'm thinking I want to add some pink to this. Now, I'm not normally a pink person, but I like the roseness it's got going through here, or the warmth of that pink. And I'm thinking if I add pink, is it going to be too subtle? Now, I do have a really nice pearl pink here. However, the trouble is, I think it'll be too pale. Now, I have this here, which is violet iridescent, but it's too purpley, and I'm wondering whether if I mix a little bit of each of these together, that might give me what I want. So let me just push that up again. I keep pushing this plate in and out, so I think maybe use those two. And this is one of my foam stamp designs, and it's circles. I will put a link to all of my products, and actually I'll put a link to all of Paulla's products as well in the description box. And I think I'm going to use this to add something to this print, and again I'm going to use that stamping technique. So let's bring in my piece. Now I think, as I said, I'm going to mix these 2 colours together because I'm not looking for the iridescence of the purple, of the pink. I'm actually looking for the colour. So, and I think I think this will go down well. So can you see that? You can. So I'm just going to smoosh that together. Yeah, I think that might be very... Okay, I'm not hating that. Right, so I've got that braid out. So I'm using this as my ink pad. So I'm going to come in, tap this down. I'm not bouncing it into it too hard because I don't want the paint going up into it. And I'm coming in and I'm going to put this down. Now I'm pressing all over the back, but not firmly, just enough. Okay, I like that. Okay, that is giving me what I want. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to link together the blocks I've just put on there. Now I'm also going to turn my stamp around so that I don't always have everything in the same orientation. Yes, I like where this is going. I have a better feel for this now. It's also very difficult when you're creating something with another person in mind. Now, granted, this journal is not going back to Paulla. This journal is staying with me. However, I would like it to represent her, and her pages will be in it. Now, I'm filming this in a couple of sections, and I haven't yet received Paulla's pages. So I really don't know what the content of this journal is going to look like. I only know that the communal theme is going to be the colour combo for August. Okay, I'm liking it. I wonder whether I will send this back to Paulla, actually. That would be quite a nice thing to do, wouldn't it? I don't know. I'll have to think about that. Right, so those are those bits done. Now, obviously, I've got quite a bit of paint left on here, and that's totally fine with me. I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the same thing on here. And I'm going to stamp this on here just to give this some more interest. There's quite a lot more on here. Yeah, I think that'll do. I am liking them, I must admit. I'm slightly worried that if I press anything onto this, I'm going to smudge it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a piece of tissue over the print itself. And what this will do is it will blot off any excess. Granted, it will take away some of the texture I was trying to create. But as I'm also trying to reduce the amount of filming time, I don't want to keep starting and stopping and drying stuff unless I don't have an option. Okay, this one, just pop this on here. So this is just a trick I use just to, if I don't need to dry it with a hairdryer, I just want to pick off excess. Now, this is carnival tissue paper, which means it's water resistant. It'll deal with wet mediums anyway. So I think we're doing okay. I'm okay with that. I'm thinking I want to go in. I'm not even sure I want to put black on this, to be honest. I think I want to go in now and use the ruin blocks that Paulla created. And this is her mask. Now, the word mask and the word stencil are slightly, how do I word this? Are slightly misleading because this isn't necessarily a stencil or a mask. Stencil and mask are terms for how you use something. Like if I was to lay this on top of something and lift the paint out of it, it would be a mask. But if I put this onto something and put the paint through it, it's a stencil. So the thing can be used in two different ways. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with the copper, because I like where we're going with all of this. And I think if I put copper through this and then pick up those elements, I can put them into the bigger picture. So I'm going to go back to the copper. Now, I do know that the copper is not 100% opaque. It's got a little bit of a transparency to it, so I'm all right with that. Now, I'm going to put this on here, and I'm trying not to go over the edge. And luckily enough, it's not that much bigger than my brayer itself. Right, let's get what's left of my fingernail under there. I'm just going to take a little cloth and anything that looks like a straight line, I'm just going to blend it out a bit. I don't mind if there's a little bit here and there, I just don't want too much. And then I'm going to come in and touch this down. That's what I was looking for. I think I'm going to pick up that bit in the middle. That's fabulous. Paulla, fabulous design. There you go, that was what I was looking for. I was looking for something and I couldn't work out what it was. That's what I was looking for. So I'm going to put this back down on the plate now. I'd like to say I'm going to match it up perfectly, but I'd be shocked if I got it perfect. But it doesn't matter because the paint on there is probably already dried. And I'm going to do the same to the other piece. That was lovely. I love this. I've seen this design used in loads of different ways. So if you're someone who uses stencils, this is definitely a good one to get. As I said, I will put links to everything in the description box. So just coming in, pick up stuff. I'm loving that. I've got an idea as to how I want to finish this off too. Oh, don't go on there. Right. Let's pull in that cleanup sheet that we've got hanging around somewhere. Where are you? This one now. If I turn this over, it's probably going to leave a bit of an imprint. I don't know how much of an imprint. Not very much. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use it as a stamp. Just to put something on here, and also to reduce the build-up of paint on the stencil or mask itself. Now, I don't tend to wash my stencils or masks unless they've got pieces a bit smaller than this, then I will. And I usually drop it into a warm bowl of soapy water, let it sit for a while, and then gently use my fingers over the top. I don't tend to scrub it with a brush because that could really end up injuring the stencil, as it would with a mylar stencil or any other sort of stencil. So I tend to be careful because I like my products. Okay, that's getting there with this one. Okay, bit of a clean up here. So let's have a little look at what we've got. So I'm absolutely loving that. So pleased with how that turned out. That's going to make a beautiful cover, depending on how and where I fold it. Right. Now I would like something on here. I really would like something to make it jump a little bit. And by jump I mean pop a bit more. Now I'm really tempted to reach for black, but black is ultra dramatic. And I'm not sure black is where I want to go with this. I've got blocks on here, I've got circles. Right, so see I've got this is foam butterfly stamp and this foam butterfly stamp. I also have a dragonfly. Now I put dragonflies on lots of stuff because to me, I love dragonflies. Maybe we will go on, because my instinct was to use the butterfly stamps. Now these foam butterfly stamps are not designed by myself or Paulla, they're designed by either Mariah or Brad or Patricia at PM Artist Studio, and I love them. They gave great little detail, and I think that's what I want. I don't want a huge amount of them, but I want them. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in a brown, and I'm going to pull in a reasonably warm brown for this. This is just a mix-up bottle. In other words, if I have other tubes of brown, I would just add it to this. See, it's quite a nice warm brown. Let's take that off there. Don't need crumbs on it before we start. Now it's quite a fluid paint, so I have to remember it's quite a fluid paint. So I'm going to roll it out reasonably. Can you see that? you can. I'm going to roll it out reasonably thinly because I don't want things being splotchy. Now I'm going to decide that this is in this alignment as a vertical. Yeah, I like the blocks, so remember, part of this is going to be cut off. So I'm going to do 4 of those, and I'm going to do 4 of the little ones as well. I don't know where it's going to be cut, that's the thing. So I'm just going to add, actually I'm going to add another one of those up there. Okay, that's that one. I'm going to do the same with this one. Which orientation are they in? That way. So basically what we're doing is we're just making backing papers. Without it being backing paper, we're using backing, well, it's cardstock, isn't it? So I don't want a part one on there, and actually I don't want a part one on here. So right, let me just get this out of the way. Let's pull in the other paper to see whether we can add any of this to that, which I'm almost certain I am going to be able to. This actually might have finished this one off, to be honest. This is one of those backgrounds that I was gel printing with, and I wasn't quite happy with where it was going. And then I decided, okay, let's just put it in a box and come back to it when I'm doing another project. And that's how some of my things are actually made. It could take weeks or months for me to pick up this piece again. I'm literally just making, actually I want the other one. Don't ask me, people, I don't know. I just felt it was the other butterfly. Right, that's the one that's going to one side. Okay, I think we're done with that. I think we're done with that. I need to just stamp off the excess off the foam stamps. And again, I'm going to put them onto a piece of damp face cloth, just because I don't want them, what am I trying to say? I don't want them to dry out. And I'm just going to pick this up. Now, pink and brown, I quite like pink and brown together. Have we ever done that as a colour combo? I don't actually get to decide what the colours are in the colour combo, and nor does Paulla. What happens is our subscribers request to challenge basically Paulla and I to do colour combos. Now, some colour combos are just not going to work. It's if you ask for black and gunship grey, it's like, well, that's not going to work because, well, that's probably debatable. It could work, but it's not going to be a popular colour combo. And we like all of the makers of Mixed Media Art and Artists Facebook group members to actually enjoy the make of the colour combo. So, but 99% of the ones that get requested, we do actually go, right, let's add that to this. We're already part of the way through 2024 on the list at the moment, so there's definitely more on the way. It's probably going to be going for a couple of years, I should imagine, or until one of us expires. Okay, right. I need to just pull these in and have a look, because I think this is as far as I'm going with these. I think these are fine. Any more than this and I will ruin them. So here we go. So one will be the inside and one will be the outside of the cover. And I don't know which is which at the moment. I really don't know which is which. That'll be a job for when we do the next section. So I think, right, what we're going to do is I'm going to pause you here. I'm going to let these dry overnight till they're totally fully dry. Then I'm going to bring you back. And then what we're going to do is we're going to then cut them up and then start making these into a cover. I think this is exciting. I can't actually wait to see what the pages are that arrive for this. I do hope to goodness they go with this. If not, I may have to tweak them, Paulla. I may have to tweak them. So, see you in 2 seconds for you. It'll be at least 24 hours for me, guys. I am so excited. I've just finished filming another video for my channel. What was it? I think it was arty postcards from cleanups and scraps. I think something along those lines anyway. And I just turned the camera off and Biscuit started barking. Usually a sign the postman was here. I'm here in the house on my own, so I nipped down to the front door and this arrived. And I know what this is because I know what's under these labels, and I know definitely what's under there. These are the signature pages from the Netherlands, from Paulla. So that means mine have been mailed to Paulla. I know that. Paulla's have been mailed to me, which is obviously here. Now I can actually get on and make the cover and complete the journal. So, but first of all, I want to open these up now. Paulla did send me an image of her pages because, of course, I filmed mine for the colour combo for August launch. So she saw them, not in real life, obviously. And yes, a photograph and a camera and a video can change the way things look, like colours and stuff like that. So basically, I'm trying not to do damage here. So basically, seeing things in real life is always an exciting time. So I'm just going to pull these out. Make sure there's nothing left in there. There isn't. Good. Right, bear with me. I just want to see what's written under this sheet of paper. Okay, right, these are definitely from Paulla. They are the journal pages that she's made ready for the journal, the swap that we've done. So obviously, I think I've already said, I'm linking in the description box the video where I created her journal pages. This is just a piece of scrap carpet. I'm going to keep this and I'll make a tag out of that. I'll do something with it. So let's take a look. I'm excited. I'm really excited just to see how... Because obviously, this is going to be the cover. So I've got to hope that this will match this. And just looking at this alone, it will. I might come through with a little bit of a copper butterfly occasionally on a page. Or maybe take the pink circles and put them somewhere occasionally. But I'm not sure that I want to. So let's have a quick look side by side and then I'll move on and we'll get on with completing the next thing, which is putting the cover together. Okay, I'm loving this. Paulla did say she thinks there may be a bit too much acrylic paint on these to make this a writing journal. I disagree, because if you use the right pen and the acrylic is fully dried, yes, you can write over it. You just need to allow for, I'm loving that, you have to allow for drying time of the, like if you're using a gel pen or whatever you're writing with, you just need to let it have enough time to actually dry before, because you're drawing on top of a non-porous surface. These are beautiful, Paulla. Oh, I love the birds. Birds on wire. Yay, look at them. These would make a great digital, Paulla. I'm excited by this. Ooh, decision will be, does that get left or not? Now, when you next see these, I will have folded them in half because they need to be folded in half to go in the journal. I don't know what paper this is. It's lovely. It's lovely and crunchy. I'm loving this. So they'll be folded in half, and then once the journal is complete, I normally trim the edges of the signature anyway, so it's got a flush edge to it, so I might lose certain edges. I think I'll be able to write perfectly over this, Paulla. I wouldn't worry. These are beautiful. Ooh. Must remember to have the birds in the right orientation. Can you imagine you open the journal, the birds are all hanging upside down? You have to call them bats. So, I'm loving this crinkly paper. This is either packaging or it's deli paper. I don't know, Paulla will have to let me know. I'm really excited about these. These are lovely. I mean, I struggle to do subtle because I like colour, I like vibrance, I like things to pop and contrast, and these are lovely. I've seen this stamp used somewhere before, I don't know who. Actually, I think Darcy has this stamp, and that's where I've seen that. I like this stamp as well, the little one that looks like, you know, it's like an industrial metal pattern you see for like treads on big trucks and things like that. Loving that. I know this pattern. I know this. I'm sure it's a PM Artist Studio one. Sure, I know that. I just can't remember. I'm horrible. I can't remember names half the time. Okay, Paulla, I think those are absolutely glorious. I really do. And I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to make a pocket out of this. And then the message which you've written me, which I'm not going to let you all read, I'm going to tuck into here, but I will attach it to the back of a tag. So I think that's what's going to be on the inside cover. Is I'm going to cut this, make it into a pocket. So right, I spent enough time looking at those. I'm incredibly excited about that, Paulla. Thank you. They are absolutely stunning. So here we are. I folded all of the pages. I actually did trim it so they're flush at the edge, well, except for that bit there. Purely because when I make my journal covers, I'm working with a 12 by 12. If I don't trim off the edge, sometimes it protrudes out, not an issue. If it does, I'll maybe put lace down the side or something. So I put them together. I'll do a proper flip through when we actually have finished the journal. I did manage to keep some of the decorative edges in there, which I thought was a cute idea. So this bit is now done. It's waiting for me to get the cover done. The process for this video now is, as you've seen, we've seen how I made the gel prints that are going to be the cover. You've had a flip through of these when they first arrived. Paulla, I'm so excited. I love these. These are absolutely beautiful. I've now done the folding and the trimming. That's ready to go. I now need to trim down and show you how I'm going to make this into a cover. There is one slight concern I have though. I was going to make this a completely naked journal, like I wasn't intending on decorating it. However, when you see these together, they complement each other, but I would quite like to take this design through the journal slightly. So I very much suspect there's going to be a part 2 video because I've only got 20 minutes left on this recording before I go past an hour. If I was to decorate and make ephemera in that for this journal, it would probably add at least another hour. So I think what we're going to do is I might make a part 2 and do as much as I can in the journal within roughly about an hour. I know you guys don't mind it going longer, but I do because of upload time, so bear with me. Now, I'm going to have to cut 3 inches off this anyway because my journal covers are normally 9 by 12 and this is a 12 inch. That means I'll have a 3-inch strip off each of these to be working to make ephemera. But 2 3-inch strips is not going to be enough. So what I've done is, if you remember, I created this when I was actually doing the journal. This was the spare one, so I have decisions to make. Now, I could make that the outside cover, have this as the innards, and have one of these on the inside, or I could keep the plan as those and then cut this one up for ephemera to carry through the journal, which, if you look, it's already backed on the back. I hunted through scraps and I found that I had this scrap as well that goes quite well with the colour scheme, and I found this strip which could potentially be a belly band. So the decision is, do I go dark on the outside or light? And I really like the light, so I think I'm going to, actually, I'm wondering if I go light on the outside and dark on the inside. That doesn't bother me. And then I could use this for pieces of ephemera, which would bring the cover from the outside to it. Let's do that. Right, so this will become the inside. Now we just need to make sure we choose which we like best for the outside. So trick is it's going to be folded in this direction, and then I will trim 3 inches either off the bottom or off the top. So if I cut it off the bottom, I'm probably going to have that as my cover. If I trim it off this one, I think I want that for the outside, only because that's less butterflies, and within the signature, Paulla actually used birds. Now I don't have anything that's bird. I'll put them upside down. I don't have anything that's birds except maybe fussy cut birds, which might have to go onto some of the ephemera to tie it through. But if I use this for ephemera, like pockets and tucks and things like that, then it'll bring the butterflies through as well. So right, enough of me chewing the cud here. Let's get these cut down. So I need to make these 9 by 12. It's already 12. So let's come in and make some cutting decisions here. No pun intended. Well, maybe there was a slight pun intended. So if I cut this at 9, I end up hacking this butterfly in 2. If, however, I cut through there, so it's the bottom of that butterfly. So I'm trying to work out that I don't slice and dice too many creatures along the way. Actually, I should just be able to do that. Right, what I'm trying to do is not damage this butterfly either. So I'm going to come in to just below that top butterfly. As close as I can get. Okay, that decision's made. So that could become pockets quite easily, because if I cut that, I can even cut that into 3 pockets, or even like a small tuck spot. I've still got butterfly elements on it, so let's go. That will go with the ephemera stuff. Now I need to come in from this side to make it 9. And if I've done my calculations correct, fingers crossed people, no butterflies will be injured. I'm keeping this. I know it looks like a bit of strip of nothing, but you never know. A piece of this on a piece of ephemera may just be enough. And when I come to do the ephemera, I'm going to go through my already made ephemera and see if I can find stuff that's playing within this colour scheme. I like brights, so I very much suspect there's not going to be a lot, unless there's something like some coffee dyed ephemera or maybe book page ephemera. So that's the outside. I think that's a good choice. I like where that butterfly landed. I like that. It's not overpowering. I'm okay with that. Right, so that's the outside. Now the inside. The inside is basically whatever I want it to be, really. I think I'm just going to cut the 3 inches off here. Again, that can make some pockets or tags, or actually looking at that, that's probably 2 journal cards just by there. Okay, so let's close this down. Put it out of trip hazard way. Now, my method for making these is going to be, I'm going to stick these 2 together. I wish that wasn't that, because that makes it a bit more heavy duty, but I suppose that makes it more robust. I'm going to stick these together with glue stick, and then I'm going to sew around the edge. I'm not going to sew on screen, guys. It doesn't work for viewing. All you'll see is the top of my machine vibrating slightly as I sew. So I'm just going to sew around the edges of here, and then I'll come back in and I will trim up any edges that look slightly out of sync. Because for some reason, no matter what I do, there you go, you can see it down there. No matter what I do, it always seems to be slightly out of whack. And I don't know why that is. It's a thing. It's just a thing. So I'm going to come in, let's put some stuff down so I don't get glue all over my mat. And I'm going to glue, I'm not really going to glue that much in the center. I'm going to put some there, but not a huge amount, because it's going to have thread through it anyway, because I'm going to be sewing the signature in. I like to focus on the edges. Even though they're being sewn, there will be an area past the edge of the sewing that needs to be sealed together. I am very much likely to put, what am I trying to say, book corners on this anyway, because I tend to put book corners on things, especially for longevity. Right, something I absolutely have to make sure I do is I've got them in the right orientation. Yep, butterflies flying upwards. Butterflies flying upwards. I'll trim that off later. So the reason I like to use the glue stick is for this reason. I can slide stuff around. Right, let's move these out of the way a second. I can slide stuff around. So see, for some reason I always have these little areas. Even though everything is matched up on the edge, I cut it with a guillotine. It always just seems to be slightly off kilter, but we deal with it. Now, a trick I like to use is I tend to use a brayer to really flatten this down and give it a darn good press. So you can press it down with a store card as well, which I do a lot with other things. The thing I tend not to do, however, is if it's got anything textural, like some of this feels slightly raised, if I was to use a store card, I could catch that and rip it off. So I'm going to pause you for 2 seconds while I whip around this with a sewing machine, and I'm also going to come in and I'm going to trim off these extra edges because you don't really need to see that. That's just a bit of boring footage as far as I'm concerned, and then we'll move on to the next bit. So see you in 2, guys. So here we go, it's all sewn. I just used quite a wide zigzag all the way around. I don't really worry about the corners too much because I know there's corners going to go onto it. I use this sort of brownish colour because it complemented the butterflies. I thought that's a nice way to add drama to it. I have gone through and chosen book corners that are going to go on it. I looked at using silver, but the silver ones didn't seem to look right. So I've gone for this sort of bronzish colour, which is, to be honest, the ones I probably use the most anyway. Put those on after we put the signature in. So we're there. That's the outside and that's the inside. I'm still unsure whether this should be the outside, but using my logic of using this as the theme of the ephemera going through, I think we should stick with this. Now, this may still be slightly wet from the glue stick. I normally don't sew immediately once I've stuck them together, purely because I just don't want things moving around. I'd rather it was stuck fully, and I don't normally fold it either until it's fully dried, but we're going to do it today because I want this video done and I want you to all enjoy the process along with me. So I'm going to come in, pressing that down with my thumbs. Now I'm pressing it down my thumbs here, my fingers, just to make sure it's okay in the middle. Now, I am not going to run a bone folder along this just yet. I might come in with a brayer and give it a bit of a brayer down. And there is a reason for that, because if there's any glue stick in here, it will have softened the fibres of the background card I created for the cover. And if I was to run a bone folder, I could drag it and tear it. It's not a huge problem because I may at the end of the day put lace down the spine anyway where it's all sewn together. That's undecided. I'll leave those sort of decisions until it's fully made. If I put lace down, I'm likely to lose that butterfly. It may bother me, may not bother me, I'm not sure, but if I was going to have lace, it would probably not come all the way out to there, only there. So I don't know. We may or may not have lace on this. Right. So that's going to sit for a second. So I have my signature now. I really need to do a few things before I start sewing it in. So I've got a box of binder clips here. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to flip through the entire thing to make sure there is nothing in the wrong orientation. And I say that because I've done it before. Like the birds need to be sitting upright, or they're bats, because they're hanging from the branch. See, they're all sitting in the right orientation, which is vertically. If there's anything on here that's got directional text within it, see, birds in the right direction, then I need to make sure the directional text is in the right orientation as well. Like that's just a pattern. It looks like a number 8 and a number 9, but it's not numbers. It's actually just texture. I wonder whether I want that up the other way. I don't know. No, let's leave it as it is. So I thought they were horseshoes. I'm like, horseshoes, it's unlucky to be hanging that way, but I think I'm looking too much into it. It's just a piece of pattern. So looks like I've managed to get all the birds equally positioned. I also went through and I tried to roughly equally space the birds and this paper, because I didn't want them all at the front, all at the back. I also wanted to make sure that this paper was supported by the papers around it, that it wasn't, sorry, I wasn't in shot for that, was I? I want it supported by the papers around, so I wouldn't put it on the middle and I wouldn't put it on the outside, because it's probably going to get damaged. I think I've definitely done it. So what I chose for the outside, or when you open the book firstly, is that, because that mirrored the circles that are on there and the circles on there. For the centre, I just chose that because it's slightly nondescript and there's nothing dominant in it, but we do have the circle theme happening again. So happy with that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, and you've probably seen me do this 100 times before, but there's always someone watching for the first time. I'm going to make sure all of my pages are sat equidistant between the top and the bottom. I sometimes use the stitching as my guide, because normally on the sewing machine I've used the outside of my sewing machine foot as a guide. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to take some binder clips and I'm going to clip one of them in place. I'm then going to go to the opposite side, make sure I pushed my thumb into here to get all of the pages to the back of the spine. Have I done that the right way up? Butterflies in the right direction, so I'm doubting myself. I need to find a bird. Yeah, birds are, yes, birds are in the right direction. Okay, and then I'll go back to my original one and I'll squish that one into the back corner. I want to make sure that everything is even. Already this is twisting. So I'm going to come in here and push this one in. It's worth taking the time moving stuff around until it's absolutely right. See, mine have all moved for some reason. Why have you moved? You were absolutely lined up to start with. Right, I think a trick I'm going to show you is I will put a clip on the outside edge just to hold it in place while I'm working. And I know that I sound really pedantic about this, but it's just my nature, guys. If a job is worth doing, it's worth doing well. Just need to come over just slightly. Right, now everything is held in place at the spine. I'm just going to come in and I'm going to pop these clips on opposite sides, still checking with my thumb here that they're actually pushed to the back. So happy with that. Some people don't even do this stage, so if you've seen me do it and you go, well, no one else does that, that's fine. You do you, I'll do me. So I can see now that these are pushed all the way back to the back. It's not going to close properly until I take the clips out. So clip box can go to one side. Now I need to consider what colour thread, basically because it might be seen on the outside without lace over it. So I've got this pack of well, there was one pack, but I split it into 2 bags of waxed linen thread. I bought it on eBay a very long time ago, and this colour to me is absolutely perfect. It doesn't have to be waxed thread. It could be normal sewing, heavy duty sewing thread. It could be embroidery floss. I've even sewn these in with dental floss before now if I've run out of waxed thread. Now, I'm going to be overly generous with the amount of thread I'm using, purely because I might want to tie dangles at the end. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 and possibly 4. Or so much. Now I'm only sewing 1 thickness of thread. Sometimes I sew with 2 thicknesses of thread, as in I would have doubled the thread up before I sew it on. In this case, I think I'm okay with one because the papers are quite sturdy. Right, just taking a needle that's got a large eye. In the past, I have used things like a cross-stitch needle or a darning needle, but be careful because those are really quite thick in width, and sometimes they will make the hole that you're putting your thread through gape, and that means that your signatures could move around. So I like to put the needle on as soon as I can so that I don't lose the needle, which is very easily done when you just put it on your desk and you're doing other things. Now, I'm going to punch some holes through this. I've got an old paperback book. You have no idea how many journals this one has seen. And I've got an awl, that's AWL, which is a pokey tool basically, but a little thicker than the one you would use for normal paper crafting. Now, all of the bookbinding stuff I'm using, there are kits you can buy on the internet, and I would say that if you go to Gail Augustinelli's website and you go to favourite things and search bookbinding, there's bound to be a kit in there because that's where I found it, and if you use that link it'll take you through to possibly Amazon where it will be. And that's just a nice way for me to locate it because I'm not going to be putting a link to it in mine when Gail has already got one. Right, so I'm going to come in roughly into the middle. I'm going to push through the pages all the way through so it goes through to the other side. I've got a relatively good hole there, that's fine. I'm then going to come down a little bit from the top. I'm not measuring. I would measure if I was doing more than one signature, but I'm only doing one signature. Wish that wasn't slightly out of line, but I'm sure I'll deal with it. By closing your book up slightly, it means that when you push through, you're more likely to go directly down into the spine. And I'll show you what I mean now. See, that one went straight through to the spine there. This one missed the mark slightly, but you know what? I'm sure the journal police aren't going to come after me for that one. This can go by. We're done with that. Now, I do different types of 3-hole pamphlet stitch when I sew in signatures. This is probably my favourite version that I'm going to do now, purely because it's a bit quicker. So I'm going to go from the inside to the outside of the middle hole. Now, you need to make sure this doesn't come undone, so you can, if you choose, actually just clip it under your binder clip. I'm then going to go from the outside to the inside. Okay, so I've gone from the inside through the middle, back in through the outside, and we're going to go all the way to the top, go out through the out hole at the top, and then I'm going to come back in through the middle hole. Now, the reason I wanted the tension there is so that when I come in through this hole, I don't go through the previous thread. You don't want to pierce the fibres of that thread. I would like to go through the book though, people. Where are you? I know there's a hole. Why can't I get through the hole here? Yeah, it works. There is a hole. There you go, coming up through the hole. Now, my thread has naturally done what I needed it to do, which we'll just call that a lucky thread. Let's put the needle off there. As you can see, I've got way too much thread. I'd rather have more thread than less. I'm going to release all of the clips because if I tighten it up with the binder clips in place, then they may restrict it, tightening up completely. So I've got a huge amount of thread here and not enough there, so I'm just going to pull some of this thread back through so that I've got equal amounts should I want to tie binder clips, gems when we're talking about charms. Okay, my thread actually did exactly what I wanted it to do, which means I've got a thread either side of the central one. If not, just tuck your thread through. I mean, so if you came through to that scenario, just take the thread, tuck it through to the other side and give it a bit of a pull. Now, don't pull it so much that it really cuts all your papers in half, but you do want it fairly taut. I'm then going to do one single knot, and at that point I give it a reasonable tug. That means that's nice and tight. I then come in and I do a second knot, And me being me, I do a third knot. Third knot is totally up to you. Now, if you don't want to add charms to the bottom of your strings, I'm just going to cut that off because that's more than enough. You can, of course, just come in and tie this with a bow. Okay, I think I'm going to add charms to this. So that, guys, is our signature in place. And you can see now why I trimmed the edge of the pages, because some of them are very close to that edge, but they're not protruding over. If I hadn't have trimmed it, it would have come to a point and pointed out there. So we've now got our journal all put together. Nicely done. And I'm going to put the book corners on for you in a minute. And then this video will be done. And we will then look at the next video, which is where we'll talk about decorating things up. So I need to put my book corners on. And I'm actually going to use my book that I pierce through and just protect my work surface a bit while I do this. Now I'm using Fabri-Tac. You could use any glue that you actually feel is strong enough. It's maybe not even necessary in some cases, but I like to use Fabri-Tac just so that I've got a really good grip on the edge of the... Ooh, I forgot to do something. Okay. I should have done this before I sewed it together. I wanted to come along this edge, and I'm using Vintage Photo. You don't have to do this step. This is just me being ultra picky. I don't want to see the white core of the card that I made the covers from. So this is just a step that I like to do, just to cover up that white core so it's not visible. It just adds to the finesse of the journal. There you go. That just a little thing to do. You could even use maybe a marker and run a marker along the edge should you choose to. So I'm just going to get my corner. Now I like these corners that, if you can see there, that'll show you here, that you squish down. Some of them you buy have got a set height there, and if you buy those and they're wider than your cover, when you squish them down you get a really peculiar edge. I buy these on the internet. I buy them on eBay, I think. You just search book corners, you'll see them, but really search well, because sometimes they come in a pack of 10, sometimes they come in 20, sometimes they come in 50, and obviously the more you buy the cheaper it will be. I tend to go for the bigger amounts or larger amounts, because basically I use them quite often. So I'm just going to come in, I'm just going to put a bit of Fabri-Tac into this, just into the middle there. I don't want so much that it squishes out, because that would just be unsightly. I push it down with my thumb. Right, that's nicely on the corner. I then come in, I've got a pair of these flat nose pliers, and I give it a couple of little cinches. I don't mind if it marks the metal slightly. That's never bothered me. Some people don't like the marks and they'll put a bit of felt over there and then snip and pinch it shut. Completely up to you guys. However you wish to work is the right way. So a little bit more Fabri-Tac in there. Or a little more, a little. So let's scoop some of that off there. And slip that on there. I'm pushing it right into the corner, and then I'm pressing it down with my thumbs. And then I just work my way along the edge. As I said, any marks that appear on the corner doesn't bother me. I immediately turn it over and make sure I've got no Fabri-Tac oozing out. If I do, I come in and clean that up ASAP, because I don't want it there. Right, a little bit, I've got a bit more there. Just using up the spare bit that bubbled out. A little bit in there. Slide that on, press it down. It's quite a quick process. I think it finishes a journal off having a corner protector on it. Also, there's a practical reason. Usually a journal is used for journaling. And if you're journaling with me, I'm usually traveling with my journal. So it's in and out of a bag, it's in and out of a suitcase, it's in and out of a desk or something. So I like to make sure that I've protected it as much as I can. In respect for the journal, and in this case, in respect for the journal that I've been making with Paulla because I don't want it damaged. I want to have some longevity. Let's take that out of the way, put the lid on the Fabri-Tac before it starts to volcano all over the place. This page has got Fabri-Tac on, so this page is going to get moved away. It'll use for collage at some point, definitely. Right, that's out the way. So we now have our book with corners. I've done the edges. It's a nice feel to it. It's a good weight to this, actually. I will work out some charms for the strings later. But I think what we're going to do now, as I said, is I'm going to stop here. And I'm going to do a part 2. And what I'll do with the part 2 is there'll be a description in the description, there'll be a link in the description box below for part 2. And when I release this video, I'm going to release the part 2 video just a few minutes after the part 1 video. And I want to do that purely because then both videos will appear at the same time roughly. And if you're watching one, you won't have to search very far for the next one. It should be the one you get the next notification for. But don't forget, the link is going to be in the description box to part number 2. If you're seeing this and the link isn't working, it's because this is only just launched. Give me at least 5 minutes to wake up in the morning and actually attach them together, okay guys? So that's that. Watch out for part 2 and we'll do the best we can. I doubt I'm going to get an entire journal decorated and ephemera created for an entire journal in 1 hour, but I'll do my best to give you an idea of my thinking and where I'm going to go with it. So, I'm Ceri the Crafter, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'll see you in part 2. Bye-bye now.